Hey, we're in Psalm chapter 6, and we're going to nearly finish this today and maybe early next week. As we journey into Friday and into the weekend, I wish you a great weekend. I hope you have a refreshing, a renewing, and energizing weekend. I hope that you will worship with us at Emmanuel, 9 and 10:30 on Sunday morning. We have a wonderful morning planned as we continue our series, Cultivating a Healthy Soul. Well, we left off yesterday with verse 5. For in death there is no remembrance of thee, in the grave who shall give thee thanks? Now look at verse 6 with me. I am weary with my groaning. All the night make I my bed to swim. I water my couch with my tears. Mine eye is consumed because of grief. It waxeth old because of all mine enemies. David is really describing misery here. And he's describing it to God. He says earlier in the psalm, I'm weak, my bones are vexed, my soul is vexed. He was literally sick physically and emotionally by what he was going through. And he's crying out for God's mercy and God's deliverance. Verse 5, he feels like he's on the brink of death, that he's probably not going to survive this. You notice how he's gone back and forth in these Psalms. In one hand, he's thinking, God's going to deliver me. Another hand, he's thinking, I'm about to die. God, I hope you deliver me. That's so human. It's so human, and it's so us. What I like about verse 6 and 7, as heavy as it is, what does it teach me? Well, it teaches me that David, being the great king and God follower that he was really as weak and human as I am. It teaches me that it's not unusual for me if I get weary or if I get tired of being in a groaning place. It teaches me that crying isn't the end of the world, that crying is a normal part of human existence and it's a normal part of following God. He says that he's crying so much, he's crying himself to sleep or crying himself awake, one of the two. So many tears that his bed is swimming. And he's watering his couch with tears. And so much so that his eye is, I don't know the idea here in terms of the physiological aspect or experience, but he's wearing his eyes out. He's crying so much. My eye is consumed because of grief. It waxeth old because of all mine enemies. He's so surrounded by oppression that he's weeping. He's bearing out a deep, deep time of grief. Here's the takeaway for me today. And I know this is heavy, but maybe you're in a time of heaviness. It's really important to realize that that's not going to go on forever. But I think the big takeaway is David is pouring out his very real experience to God. And he's diagnosing himself in the presence of God. He's taking his experience to God and he's saying, God, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. God, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm fearing. This is my experience. And that's rich to me. The fact that he would go to God, that God would receive that. I think it's valuable for us to think about what David is not saying. He's not accusing God. He's not blaming God. He's not angry at God. He is appealing. That's a healthy thing. He's appealing to God. He's laying out. He's unfolding his heart in the presence of his God. And my friend, that is a wonderful part of being a God follower, okay? Following God doesn't mean that your life is flawlessly smooth sailing. It doesn't mean that you never have pain or grief or tears. And having pain or grief or tears does not mean that God has rejected or failed you in any way. Having grief and pain and tears means you are a normal human being going through a hard life on a fallen, broken planet in a fallen creation. It means that you need God. Having a soul that's experiencing real pain on a real human level is is evidence that you need God. And God can and will deliver you, no doubt about it. That's why Jesus came and died, okay? If your faith is in Jesus, deliverance is inevitable, okay? He's going to heal you. He's going to strengthen you. He's going to deliver you. And until he does, he's going to walk with you and he's going to sustain you. But part of that sustaining grace is you running to him and lifting up your soul and crying out and freely expressing to him what you are dealing with, what you are going through. David is essentially journaling his human experience to his God. Why? Because God is able to give him the right perspective on that human experience. God is able to give him strength through it. And ultimately and only God is able to deliver him from it. So what a privilege we have. And I want to kind of land here. What a privilege we have to, now this is going to sound strange, okay? What a privilege we have to go through grief in the presence of God. Everybody goes through grief, but not everybody gets to go through it with God. So my friend, go through grief with God. I love you. Hope you have a good Friday. We'll see you Monday.